The misunderstood wall. You know that person at work who never joins the team lunches? Or that friend who always keeps conversations surface level? Maybe it's someone in your family who seems impossible to reach, no matter how hard you try. We call them cold, distant, uninterested. But what if I told you that beneath that icy exterior, there's something entirely different happening? Something that has nothing to do with arrogance or indifference. Today, we're going to explore why some people seem cold on the surface, and what they're really protecting underneath. Because understanding this can change not just how you see them, but how you connect with the people in your own life. The armor we never asked for. Let's start with a fundamental truth about human psychology: we all develop defense mechanisms. These aren't conscious choices we make one morning. They're survival strategies our minds create, often in childhood, to protect us from pain. Think about it this way. When you touch a hot stove once, you learn to keep your distance. Your brain creates a protective reflex. Emotional coldness works exactly the same way, except the burn happened on the inside. For people who seem cold, their distant behavior isn't who they are. It's armor they've built. And that armor is protecting something incredibly vulnerable: their capacity to feel deeply. Here's what most people don't realize. The person who seems the most emotionally distant is often the one who feels emotions the most intensely. They're not cold because they don't care. They're cold because they care too much, and at some point, caring deeply hurt them in a way they never want to experience again. So what exactly are they protecting? The answer is more specific than you might think. The hidden wound. What cold people are really protecting is their core sense of self-worth. Let me explain. Most emotionally guarded people have experienced something psychologists call attachment wounds. These are moments, usually in childhood or early relationships, where their emotional needs were dismissed, rejected, or punished. Maybe they opened up to a parent who told them to stop being dramatic. Perhaps they showed vulnerability to a friend who shared their secrets. Or they loved someone deeply, only to have that love weaponized against them. In those moments, they learned a devastating lesson: showing your true self isn't safe. Being vulnerable leads to pain. Your feelings are too much for other people to handle. So they made a decision, often unconsciously. They decided to protect that tender, feeling part of themselves by hiding it away. They built walls not to keep people out, but to keep their own heart safe inside. The coldness you see isn't rejection of you. It's a shield protecting the parts of themselves they consider too precious, too fragile, or too damaged to expose again. But here's where it gets interesting. This protection comes at a cost they might not even realize. The price of protection. When you build walls to keep pain out, you also keep connection out. This is the tragic irony of emotional coldness. The very mechanism designed to protect them actually creates the exact situation they fear most: isolation and disconnection. Cold people often describe feeling lonely, even in crowds. They want meaningful relationships, but the armor they've built makes it nearly impossible for others to get close. They create a self-fulfilling prophecy. They protect themselves from rejection by rejecting others first, which leads to the loneliness they were trying to avoid. And there's something else happening too. Maintaining that cold exterior requires enormous energy. Imagine constantly monitoring every word you say, every emotion you show, always staying in control. It's exhausting. Many emotionally guarded people experience what psychologists call emotional fatigue. They're so busy managing their defenses that they have little energy left for genuine connection or joy. So if you recognize yourself in this description, or you love someone who fits it, what can actually help? The path through, not around. Here's what doesn't work: telling a cold person to just open up or stop being so guarded. That's like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk it off. The wound is real, and it needs real healing. What does help is understanding that their coldness is a language. It's their way of saying, "I've been hurt before, and I need to know you're safe." For cold people themselves, healing starts with acknowledging the wound. This means recognizing that your emotional distance isn't a personality trait. It's a response to pain. And responses can change when the circumstances change. Therapy, particularly approaches focused on attachment and trauma, can be transformative. But even without formal therapy, there are steps you can take. Start small. Practice vulnerability in low-stakes situations. Notice when your defenses activate and ask yourself, am I actually in danger right now, or is this an old fear? For people who love someone cold, patience is everything. Don't take their distance personally. Consistency matters more than intensity. Show up, be reliable, respect their boundaries, and understand that trust is rebuilt slowly. But there's one thing that changes everything, and it's simpler than you might think. The permission they never got. What cold people need most is permission. Permission to have boundaries without being called cold. Permission to move slowly without being rushed. Permission to protect themselves while still being loved. See, many emotionally guarded people grew up in environments where their boundaries were violated or their pace was never respected. They were told they were too sensitive or too slow to open up. So they learned that to be acceptable, they had to either share everything or share nothing. What they rarely received was the message, your feelings matter. Your pace matters. You get to decide what feels safe, and I'll respect that. This simple permission can be revolutionary. When cold people realize they don't have to choose between complete vulnerability and complete shutdown, something shifts. They discover that connection doesn't require them to abandon their self-protection. They can have both safety and closeness, just at their own speed. For many, this realization alone begins to soften the armor. Not because anyone forced them to lower their walls, but because they finally felt safe enough to consider it. And when that armor begins to soften, something beautiful emerges. What lies beneath the ice? Here's what I want you to understand. Beneath that cold exterior isn't emptiness. It's not indifference or lack of emotion. What lives underneath is often extraordinary depth. Cold people aren't emotionally shallow. They're emotionally deep in ways that scared them. They're the ones who feel friendships intensely, who notice every subtle change in the people they care about, who remember small details years later. They're often incredibly empathetic, which is precisely why they learn to protect themselves. When you feel everything deeply, the world can feel overwhelming. The coldness isn't about feeling less. It's about trying to feel less overwhelmed. Many cold people, once they feel safe, become the most loyal, thoughtful, and emotionally available people you'll ever meet. They don't take relationships lightly because they know exactly how much they can hurt. When they let you in, they mean it. The coldness was never who they were. It was always just protection for who they really are, someone who cares deeply, feels intensely, and somewhere along the way, learned that these qualities made them vulnerable to unbearable pain. So what does this all mean for you? The invitation forward. If you're someone who's been called cold, I want you to hear this, there's nothing wrong with you. Your protection made sense. It kept you safe when you needed it. But you get to decide if you still need it now, or if you're ready to start letting safe people closer, one small step at a time. And if you love someone who seems cold, remember this, their distance isn't about you. It's not rejection. It's self-protection born from old pain. Your patience, your consistency, and your willingness to respect their pace might be exactly what helps them heal. We're all carrying invisible wounds. Some of us just protect ours differently. Understanding this doesn't fix everything, but it opens the door to compassion. And compassion, whether for ourselves or others, is always the beginning of healing. The coldest people often have the warmest hearts. They just need to know it's safe to let you feel that warmth. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. And if you want to explore more about emotional patterns and human connection, subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching. Next time, we're exploring why some people become people pleasers instead of building walls, and how both responses come from the same wound. You won't want to miss it.